Welcome to my channel. Have you ever loved someone, but they chose someone else? This is not just a love story. It is a story of pain, hope, and learning. It is about a girl who loved truly, but life had other plans. Stay with me till the end. You will feel every word, and you will also learn English with me. Slowly, simply, and beautifully. Chapter 1. When I first saw him, it was a bright, happy day. There was music, food, and many people in the hall. Everyone was smiling. It was my cousin's wedding. I wore my pink dress. I looked around and saw many guests. I did not know most of them. But then I saw one person. He was standing near the stage. He was wearing a black sherwani. His smile was soft. His eyes were calm. I looked at him. He looked at me. For a moment, everything stopped. He didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, but I felt something. It was the first time I saw him. I don't know why, but I felt happy. I quickly looked away. My heart was beating fast. I didn't know his name. I didn't know who he was. But I could not stop thinking about him. Later, I asked my cousin, who was the boy near the stage. She smiled and said, "That is Sam. He is my friend from university." I nodded. I tried to act normal, but inside my heart smiled. His name is Sam. I said his name again and again in my mind. Sam. 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 That night I went home. I opened my diary. I started to write. I wanted to write in English. I am learning English. Writing in English helps me grow. I wrote simple words. His name is Sam. He has kind eyes. I like his voice. I like his smile. I smiled while writing. I read my lines again. They were easy, but they felt special. Every word came from my heart. I closed the diary and hugged it. I felt something soft in my heart. After that day, I started thinking about him often. When I was eating, I thought of his smile. When I was walking, I remembered his eyes. At night, I looked at the stars and wondered, does he also think about me? Maybe he doesn't remember me, but I remember him. 1 week later, there was another family event, a dinner at my aunt's house. I didn't want to go, but my mother said, "Come, meet the family." I went. I wore a white dress this time. When I entered the room, I saw him again. Sam was there. He was sitting on the sofa. He looked at me and smiled. My heart beat fast again. This time, he talked to me. He said, "Hi, are you the bride's cousin?" I nodded and said, "Yes." My voice was low, but I tried to sound confident. He smiled and said, "It's a nice wedding. I like the music." I said, "Yes, me too." That was all. Just a few words, but those words felt big to me. After talking to him, I sat in the corner. I looked at him from far. He was talking to other people. He looked kind and soft. I went home again and opened my diary. I wrote more in English. I talked to Sam. He said he likes the music. I said I like it too. His voice is calm. I feel shy, but I am happy. I underlined the word happy because that is what I felt. Writing in English helped me understand my feelings. I did not use big words, just small, simple ones, but they were mine. I was not just writing English. I was writing my heart. That night, I couldn't sleep. I read my diary again. I smiled again. I felt something sweet inside me. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was just a beginning. I didn't know, but I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to talk to him again. Every love story begins with one look, one smile, one word. For me, it began with Sam, and a few English words in a simple diary. Chapter 2. We became friends. It was another family gathering, a small dinner at my uncle's house. I went with my mother. I wore a blue scarf. I didn't know he would be there again. But when we entered the house, I saw him. Sam. He was sitting with my cousin, laughing. When he saw me, he stood up and said, "Assalamu alaikum." I said, "Wa alaikum assalam." My heart smiled. This time we sat at the same table. He asked me a question. "What do you study?" I looked at him and answered, "I study English." He smiled and said, "That's great. English is very important." I nodded. "Yes, I want to speak better," he said. "You already speak well." His words made me feel light. It was the first time he noticed something about me. My English, my learning. I felt proud. We did not talk much that day, but later I received a message. It was from Sam. Just a simple message. "Hi, I hope you reached home safely." My hands shook. I looked at the screen again and again. I replied, "Yes, thank you." "Did you?" he replied. "Yes." Alhamdulillah. That night, I couldn't stop smiling. Every day after that, we messaged. Just simple things. "How was your day? Did you study today?" "What are your hobbies?" I answered in English. I used short, clear words. Sometimes I made mistakes, but he never laughed. He was kind. He helped me learn new words, too. He said, "Try reading English books, or short stories." I said, "I will try." I started writing down our conversations. I wanted to remember everything. I made a new notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "Learning English with Sam." Here's one conversation I wrote down. Sam: "Do you like tea or coffee?" Me: "I like tea, but sometimes I drink coffee in winter." Sam: "Same here. Tea is good for the heart." I read these lines again and again. They were so simple, but for me, they were beautiful. His words were soft. His tone was caring. I started to wait for his messages. When the phone beeped, my heart beat faster. Every message gave me hope. Every reply made me happy. One day he said, "You are a nice person." That one sentence stayed in my heart. I read it 5 times. I wrote it in my diary. I told myself, this is special. This is not just friendship. But I didn't say anything to him. I was afraid. What if he didn't feel the same? I also started practicing English more. I listened to stories. I watched videos. I repeated words out loud. I wanted to improve. For myself. But also for him. I wanted him to see that I could speak well, that I could express everything in English. One evening, he said, "You are improving." I smiled. "Thank you," I said. He replied, "Hard work always shows." That night, I wrote in my diary, "I want to speak English like him. I want to be close to him. His words are like light." Our messages were not romantic, but they were soft, gentle. Slowly, he became a part of my everyday, in my thoughts, in my English notebook, in my heart. One day, he didn't message. I waited. 1 hour, 2 hours. I kept checking my phone. Nothing. I felt strange. I asked myself, why do I feel like this? Is it love? I didn't know the answer, but I knew something was growing inside me. He messaged the next morning. "Sorry, I was busy." "How are you?" I felt calm again. I replied, "I missed your message yesterday." He said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yes. I like talking to you." He didn't reply for a while. Then he said, "Same here." That was the moment. A small moment, but it felt big to me. He said, "Same here." I held my phone close to my heart. I closed my eyes. I whispered, "Maybe this is the beginning." I didn't know where this would go, but I knew one thing. I wanted to keep talking to him. I wanted to keep learning. I wanted to keep growing, in English and in love. Chapter 3. I thought he loved me too. The sky was clear that day. I sat near the window and looked outside. Birds were flying. The wind was soft. I was thinking about him. Sam. Every day we talked. Every day I waited for his message. He asked about my day. He asked what I ate. He asked what I learned in English. No boy ever asked me so much. No boy ever made me feel this way. I started to believe. Maybe this is love? I told my best friend. Her name is Zara. I said, "Zara, I think Sam likes me." She looked at me and smiled. "Yes," she said. "The way he talks to you, the way he looks at you, it's different." I felt shy, but inside I was happy. I wanted to believe her. Maybe it was true. Maybe he really liked me. One night we were chatting. I asked him, "Do you enjoy talking to me?" He replied after a pause, "Yes, I feel peaceful when we talk." I read that line again and again. I felt something inside me. It was soft, warm, like a dream. I wrote those words in my notebook. I feel peaceful when we talk. I stared at the sentence for a long time. Then I wrote my own line in English. I feel happy when he messages me. I wait for him every day. He makes me feel special. I started dreaming. I dreamed that one day we will sit together in a cafe. He will order tea. I will order coffee. We will talk in English. We will smile. Maybe he will say, "I like you." Maybe he will say, "Will you marry me?" These dreams were small, but for me, they were everything. At night, I talked to my pillow like I was talking to him. I said, "Sam, I want to be with you." I imagined him saying, "Me too." My English became more emotional. I started writing letters to him. I never sent them, but I wrote them with love. One letter said, "Dear Sam, you don't know how much you mean to me. I try to learn English, not just for myself, but also for you. I want to tell you everything, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid to lose you." I folded the paper and kept it inside my diary. I cried a little, but the tears were not sad. They were soft. I was in love, or I thought I was. He never said the words, "I love you," but sometimes he said things that made me feel close, like you understand me better than others, or I can talk to you about anything. These lines became my reason to believe. I thought, he will say it one day. He just needs time. I started using English more. I spoke in front of the mirror. I recorded my voice. I read English books about love and feelings. I wanted to be ready. I wanted to speak my heart in simple, clear English. I wrote one sentence again and again. One day, I will tell him I love him. I practiced it like a student practices a lesson. I looked in the mirror and said it out loud. One day, I will tell him I love him. One day I will tell him I love him. I imagined his smile. I imagined his reply. I believed it would happen. One day I saw him online. I typed the words, "Can I tell you something?" But I didn't send them. I waited. I deleted the message. I felt scared. What if he doesn't feel the same? What if he stops talking to me? I closed my eyes and said, "Be patient." My heart whispered, "But I want to tell him now." The feeling of waiting was hard, but I waited, because I believed he would say something first. I believed love was growing. I believed he saw me the same way I saw him. But sometimes, love is quiet. It hides behind small words, and sometimes it never comes out. Still, I believed he loved me, just like I loved him. Chapter 4. But one day everything changed. It was a cold evening. I was sitting in my room drinking tea. My phone was in my hand. I looked at it again and again, waiting for his message. Sam had not messaged me since morning. It was not normal. Usually, he would say good morning, or ask, "Did you study today?" But today nothing. I felt something strange in my heart. I opened my diary and wrote, "Why is he quiet today? Is he okay? Did I say something wrong?" I looked at our old messages. So many sweet words. So many simple talks. I smiled while reading them. But one message made my heart stop. It was from yesterday. He had written, "Your sister is very smart. She speaks good English." I had read that line before, but I ignored it. Now it felt heavy. My sister had just returned from abroad. She was beautiful, confident. She wore modern clothes. She laughed easily. Everyone in the house liked her. She talked in English and people listened. Even I liked her. But now I started to feel something else. A little fear. A little pain. That night, I heard my mother talking to my aunt. I was in the kitchen, but they didn't see me. My mother said, "Sam is a nice boy. I think he is a good match for Sarah. Sarah is my sister." I stood still. My heart dropped. I wanted to walk, but my legs didn't move. I held the table to stay strong. My ears were hot. My eyes were wet. I didn't want to hear more. I went to my room and closed the door. I sat on the floor. My tea was cold now, just like my heart. I asked myself again and again, is this real? Am I dreaming? I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I opened my diary. I wrote slowly, "My sister is pretty. Everyone likes her. He likes her too. Not me." I cried, quietly. No one saw me. No one knew. The next day I saw them talking in the garden. Sam and Sarah. They were laughing. My sister was telling a story. Sam was listening. He smiled at her the way he used to smile at me. I stood behind the window. I didn't want to see, but I couldn't stop looking. That night, he messaged me. "How are you?" I stared at the screen. My hands didn't move. I wanted to say, "Why are you marrying my sister?" But I said nothing. I just replied, "I'm fine." He said, "That's good." And then he didn't say anything else. I closed the chat. I felt cold. Not because of the weather, but because something inside me was breaking. I opened my English notebook. I wanted to study, but the words danced in front of my eyes. I couldn't focus. I wrote only one line. "I feel empty." I did not want to feel jealous. I did not want to feel angry. But I did. I hated myself for feeling like this. I wanted to be happy for my sister. but I wasn't. I started to ask questions. Was it all in my mind? Did he ever like me? Was I just practicing English, or was I practicing love? I didn't have answers. I stopped messaging him for 2 days. He didn't ask why. He didn't notice. That hurt me more than words can say. I remembered a line I read in a book. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. I think that was my answer too. In the past, when I was sad, I used to write in English. Now, I couldn't. The words didn't come. Only tears came. But I told myself, don't give up. You are not just a girl who loved someone. You are a girl who can learn, who can grow. I wiped my tears. I closed my diary. I said, I will wait for the next chapter of my life, even if it hurts. Chapter 5. He married my sister. The day came, the day I feared, the day I tried not to think about. The wedding, my sister's wedding, and the groom was him, Sam, the boy I once thought was mine, the boy I dreamed about, the boy I wrote poems for, the boy who smiled at me first, but chose her in the end. The house was full of light, full of music, full of guests. Everyone was happy. Everyone was excited. I smiled at people. I served sweets. I fixed my dress. But inside me, there was a storm. My heart was not happy. It was shaking like a weak tree in strong wind. I stood in the corner and watched. Sam entered the house, dressed like a prince. My sister stood beside him, wearing red and gold. She looked beautiful. He looked proud. People clapped. Some cried with joy. I cried too, but not for joy. My tears were quiet. No one saw them. I looked down. I held my breath. I told myself, it's okay. You are strong. Just smile. I remembered all the old messages. I remembered our first talk. I remembered when he said, I feel peaceful when we talk. I remembered when I said, one day I will tell him I love him. But I never did. And now, I never will. After the wedding, I went to my room. I opened my phone. I deleted all our messages. One by one. My hands were slow. My eyes were full. I kept the last message for a moment. It said, you are a nice person. Then I deleted it too. I felt like I was removing a part of my life, a part of my heart. But I had to do it. I had to let go. I whispered to myself, it's over. I opened my diary. The same diary where I once wrote about love and dreams. Now I wrote different words. I wrote, he is gone. My dreams are broken. But I am still here. I can still rise. I closed the diary and cried into my pillow. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning I looked in the mirror. My eyes were tired. My face was pale. But I looked at myself and said, you are not weak. You are learning. You are living. I made tea. I opened my English books again. I took out a notebook and wrote a plan. I wanted to do something new. Something for me. I joined an English course near my house. I wanted to focus. I wanted to learn. I wanted to become better. The teacher asked, why do you want to learn English? I smiled and said, because I want to speak clearly. I want to grow. She said, that's a good reason. In class, I met new people. A girl named Sana, a boy named Faraz. They were kind. We practiced speaking together. We helped each other. I started to enjoy it. One day, our teacher said, speak about someone who changed your life. I stood up. My hands were shaking. But I spoke. In simple English, I said, there was a boy. I learned English to talk to him, but he married my sister. I was sad. But I am learning again. I am stronger now. The class was silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. My teacher said, "Well done." That was brave. I felt proud, not because of the pain, but because I spoke. I told my story, and I used English. At home I smiled again. A real smile, not fake, not forced. A soft, slow smile. I started writing in my diary again. Not about him, but about me. I wrote, "Today I did something big. I spoke in class. I didn't cry. I felt strong. The pain was still there. It did not go away. But it became smaller. I began to walk with it, like a shadow, not like a weight. Love did not break me. It changed me. And English became my voice, my way to heal, my way to move forward." Chapter 6. I loved him, but I love myself more. Now time passed. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And slowly I started to feel lighter. The pain didn't go away completely, but it became soft. It stopped shouting inside me. It started to whisper. And I learned to smile again. I was still going to my English class. I spoke more now. I used to be shy. But now, I could say how I felt. One day our teacher said, "Stand up and talk about someone who inspires you." I stood up and said, "The person who inspires me is myself." I was broken, but I am learning. I am growing. Everyone clapped. I smiled. That day, I felt proud. Not because of anyone else, but because of me. I started reading small English books. I watched English movies with subtitles. I listened to English podcasts. Every time I learned a new word, I wrote it in my notebook. That notebook used to be about Sam. Now, it was about me. I changed the title. I wrote, "This is my new beginning." One morning my mother said, "Your sister and Sam are coming for dinner." I felt something in my chest. Not pain, just a little fear. I said, "Okay," and I got ready. When they arrived, I opened the door. Sam was there. He smiled and said, "Assalamu alaikum." I replied, "Wa alaikum assalam." I looked at him. He looked different now. He looked like someone from a dream that no longer hurt. We sat at the table. Everyone was talking, laughing. I stayed quiet. I listened. Then he looked at me and said, "You've changed. You look happy." I smiled and said, "Yes, I am happy." He nodded. "That's good. Really good." That small moment was big for me. In the past, his words made my heart race. Now they made me feel calm. I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. After dinner, I went to my room. I opened my diary. I wrote in English. I loved him. Truly. But he was not mine. He was not my ending. He was my lesson. A lesson of love, pain, and power. I still feel something, but it is not sadness. It is strength. I wrote more. I don't need someone to love me first. I need to love myself first. I can speak. I can grow. I can shine. And I meant every word. Now, when I walk outside, I walk with my head high. I talk to new people. I help others with English. I am not afraid to make mistakes. I am not afraid to speak, because every word I say is mine. Every sentence I build is part of my story. Sometimes I still hear his name, but it no longer hurts. It no longer makes me cry. I just close my eyes and whisper, "Thank you. You helped me find myself." And I open my eyes. Stronger. So to all the girls, all the boys, all the people watching this. If someone didn't choose you, it's okay. You can still choose yourself. And you can still learn. You can still grow. You can still speak. In love. In English. In life. Thank you for listening to this story. If you felt her pain and her strength, if you learned new words today, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and tell me in the comments, have you ever loved someone who didn't choose you? Let's learn English together, through real stories and real emotions.